Let's be real. Businesses today are in a total pressure cooker. You've got intense global competition, technology that changes in what feels like a blink of an eye, and customers whose tastes are always shifting. So just standing still? That's not even an option. In this kind of high-stakes game, making tiny little improvements just isn't going to cut it anymore. Companies need something radical, something that completely rethinks how work even gets done. And yeah, that radical solution, it has a name: Business Process Reengineering, or BPR. This right here is the classic definition from the guys who basically invented the concept, Hammer and Champy. And you got to pay attention to the key words here: fundamental, radical, and dramatic. See, this isn't about just tinkering around the edges. This is about tearing up the old playbook and starting completely fresh. So what exactly is in this pressure cooker environment? Well, here it is. We're talking about competition coming from every corner of the globe, tech that moves at lightning speed, and this new, huge focus on what we call customer care. When you put all these things together, just trying to improve your old processes is, well, it's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's not enough. Companies have to completely transform just to stay afloat. So, to survive this gauntlet, organizations are turning to BPR. It's a bold, all-in strategy to gain a massive competitive edge by rethinking, well, everything. And I've got to stress this: BPR is not just some small tweak. It is a complete and total overhaul of how work gets done. It starts with the really big picture, right? What's our mission? And then it asks, okay, how can we rebuild everything from the ground up to actually serve that mission, slash our costs, and, make our customers really, really happy? And if you want to see the power of BPR in the real world, just look at this. When Ford re-engineered its accounts payable process, they didn't just make it a little bit better. They got a staggering 75% reduction in the workforce for that department. Now that is the kind of dramatic improvement we're talking about. I mean, those are results you could pretty much never get through small, incremental changes. Now, you might be thinking this all sounds like chaos, right? Just tearing everything up. But it's not. BPR is a really structured process. As you can see, it all starts with defining your vision. Then you have to understand what you're actually doing right now. A super important step is benchmarking. That's looking at how the best of the best do it. And only then do you get to the creative part of redesigning, which is followed by the really hard work of making it all happen. Okay, so BPR sounds like the perfect answer to everything, doesn't it? Well, there's a huge catch. A lot of the time, the very systems inside a company that are supposed to help are actually the biggest things holding it back. The problem, believe it or not, lies with traditional accounting. And this is the central question we've got to ask. A company decides to go on this massive strategic journey, but the teams leading the charge find themselves totally flying blind. Why? Because the information they desperately need to make these big, radical changes, it's just not there. It's not in their existing systems. This slide just lays out the mismatch perfectly. I mean, just look at the two columns. On the left, you've got what BPR needs: stuff about competitors, about the big picture processes, and forward-looking strategic info. And on the right, that's what traditional accounting gives you. It's all internal, it's all historical, and it's obsessed with tiny little tasks and standard financial costs. It's like trying to navigate a new city with a map of a completely different country. It just doesn't work. So, the conclusion from the source material is pretty blunt, and you just can't avoid it. The old way of doing managerial accounting, the system that most companies have been using for decades, is fundamentally incapable of supporting a modern strategy like BPR. It's an anchor, not an engine. But okay, that's not where the story ends. Because in response to this massive failure, a new way of thinking about managerial accounting started to pop up, one that was actually built for this modern, competitive world. So, meet the Strategic Managerial Accounting Information System, or SMAIS. The absolute game changer here is captured in just two little words: and outside. For the very first time, accounting started to look beyond the company's own four walls to systematically gather and process data from the world at large. So what does this new strategic approach actually do? Well, it shifts the focus to analyzing your competitors and managing costs for the long haul. Performance gets measured in an integrated way. You're combining the financial numbers with non-financial stuff, like customer satisfaction. It's powerful enough to support a full-blown SWOT analysis. And look, SMAIS is a huge leap forward. It gives you vital information about customers and competitors that helps you figure out your strengths and weaknesses. But, and this is a big but, even this more advanced system isn't the complete answer. The source finds that a full-scale BPR project demands even more detailed, integrated information than SMAIS was ever designed to give. And that brings us to the ultimate solution proposed by the research. We're not just talking about an evolution of the old system. We're talking about a brand new framework designed from the ground up with the specific, demanding needs of business process reengineering in mind. Building this new system requires a totally new approach. First up, the database itself has to get a lot bigger. It needs to include what the source calls unconventional data, things like broad market conditions. Second, you have to get the people who will actually use the system involved in designing it. Third, the system has to be geared towards getting the right resources to the right places across the whole company. And finally, and this one is absolutely key, it has to cooperate and integrate with every other system in the organization to create one seamless, holistic flow of information. So what does this all add up to? What does it all mean? Well, it signals a massive, fundamental shift in what managerial accounting even is and what a managerial accountant actually does. This quote from the research just says it all, doesn't it? The accountant is no longer just a scorekeeper who puts together reports about what happened last quarter. In this new world, they're a strategic business partner, and their information system is a critical, innovative tool that helps shape the company's entire future. So let's boil this all down. What are the big takeaways here? First, if you want to truly transform a business, you have to transform its information systems too. Second, that old inward-looking accounting model, it's actively getting in the way of change. Third, success with BPR really depends on building an integrated, strategic information system. And finally, all this elevates the role of the accountant from a backward-looking reporter to a forward-looking strategic partner. And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. We've just seen this dramatic evolution of accounting from a simple support function to a real strategic driver. So the question now is, which part of the business is next? What other traditional function is just waiting to be re-engineered from a simple scorekeeper into a true strategic partner?